In today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're going to show a case study from one of our clients who came and saw us and they had $1.2 million saved and they said they felt poor. And why did they feel that way? Even especially knowing that they had a pension. The reason why is because they are that Midwestern millionaire. They are that person who has been hardworking, they've been frugal, and they've been a diligent saver. And so they've lived paycheck to paycheck what felt like over their entire working years because they were saving, they were providing for their family. And so they never made $1 million a year. They just made a steady income and did a great job of putting it away and avoiding high interest debt and living below their means to be able to get to where they are. And so we all know that if you have $1.2 million, well, you're in the top 10% in the entire country from an investment standpoint. And then also only 20% of people have a pension. And so they're very in a rare situation. So we really wanted to educate them on, hey, you are in a great position, especially knowing how frugal they are. And so one of the things we're actually going to encourage them of is, how do you spend more? How do you enjoy more of this or give more or gift more during your retirement? So if you find yourself in this situation, everything I just explained sounds like you, well, you're going to love this video. And we hear that very often from people who join this channel, knowing that we talk to a very specific crowd, those in the 2% club, those who are Midwestern millionaires, those who hate taxes, right? All three of those are books that I have written on these topics of retirement planning for those with pensions and have been diligent savers. So that's what we have in store of today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
If this is your first time watching this channel, my name is Joe Schmitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Peak Retirement Planning. We're based here in Columbus, Ohio, but we serve clients all across the country. And I'm also part of Kiplinger's Intel Advisor Group. So I get featured there twice a month, producing content for them with a few other advisors who do that as well. And I love education. We love growing this channel and educating people on this channel. And I do want to do a giveaway on the video here today for those who have been avid viewers of this channel and want to learn more about, what this can look like for them. I want to do a giveaway of our Midwestern Millionaire book. So in the description below, our team can pop up a QR code. If you want to request that book, then we'll go ahead and send that out to you. We'll send it out for free there just for you being an avid viewer. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel here, and then we'll send that out to you to give you more information. And so in today's episode, we're going to be talking just about that Midwestern millionaire. And again, remember, you don't have to be in the Midwest to be a Midwestern millionaire. We have clients in Florida or California or New York or Texas or North Carolina that, hey, they say they're not in the Midwest, but they have the same values. And so maybe they're more of a middle-class millionaire, as they say. And so if that's the case, that's totally fine. We don't discriminate on location, but it's all about those values, those strong values of work ethic and doing the right thing over all the years. And so I want to talk about this couple here we have. So they retired at 60 years old. They've got $1.2 million saved, as I mentioned, and they all have that all in tax deferred. So that's most people who come and see us for the first time. They have all that in tax deferred. So we're able to do some tax planning for them to get a more of a balance there that made sense for them. And then also they're going to look to take Social Security at 67. So we don't know when we're going to take Social Security, but for example's sake, we're going to put it at 67. The earliest they could take it is 62. The latest they could take it 70. We base Social Security decisions based on what their needs are. And so if they're going to live a long time, well, that gives us an opportunity to wait longer. If they're not going to live as long, bad health, then we may look to take it sooner. We also have to worry about the survivor's income from Social Security, knowing that one of the two are going to go away and you only keep the higher of the two. So there are some considerations to think about with that conversation. And so I want to show you just a chart really showing how all this works. And so on this chart, I'm going to show their age over time. Also, I'm going to show you that the current year, the assumptions for this. So account balance, owner's birthday year, owner's age, estimated rate of return. We're just going to show 6% in this example. We can show whatever that looks like, when we work with clients, depending on what their risk tolerance is, how we're looking to invest. But we like to show more of a conservative number here. So 6% is very reasonable. We could show 7, 8, 9, 10%, but if we don't see that return over time, then it's going to give us false analysis moving forward. Some of our clients like to even show a lower number just to make sure we're not overshooting and can be safe rather than sorry. So that's what we're looking at here. And they want to spend $100,000 a year. And so what I'm going to show here is I'm going to show their spending increasing each year. So it's not because they're spending more. It's just we're just factoring for cost of living adjustments, around that 3% that they're going to expect to pay historically over time is what we'd expect there. And so we do have to understand that they're not going to need $100,000 every single year into retirement. And that could be important because most people's pensions are fixed. Most people pensions don't increase with the cost of living adjustment. Some do, but many nowadays are going away from that, knowing how expensive it can be to fund a pension over a retirement. And so if that's the case, your spending needs are going to go up with inflation. We've all seen it happen at the stores here recently with how much more things cost, but your pension's going to stay stagnant. And so we're going to need to find other income sources to be able to fill this need as retirement goes. And so, we always say if you need $100,000 to live on today, if you see a 3 or 4% inflation rate, well, you're going to need about $200,000 to live on in about 20 years. So you can see that's a significant increase over time that we need to make sure we're planning for. And if our pension never increases, well, that's going to be tough for us to keep up with. So that's what you'll see there. So you'll see we started at $100,000. And then by the time they reach 90, they're going to need about $242,000 to live on each year just to maintain that cost of living today of $100,000. And so you're going to see their account balance goes from $1.2 million all the way to $4.3 million by the age of 90. So the reason why that's the case is one, we're showing Social Security at 67. That's going to be at 70,000. And then we're going to show a small cost of living adjustment on Social Security. We're not going to show it as much as 3% because typically it trails that. But that's what we can expect moving forward there. And then they had their $60,000 pension that started right away. So with that pension, they're going to have that every single year for the rest of their life. And then you're going to see the gap in the Social Security until 67, if that's when we decide to wait till. And then you're going to see on their investment side, there's going to be some odd numbers in there of different scenarios for what that could look like. So at the beginning, we're going to need to take $40,000 from our investments because all we have is $60,000 pension and we need $100,000 to live on. So they're going to be taking a little bit larger of a withdrawal rate earlier on in retirement to meet their income needs because they don't have Social Security. So that's something we look at when deciding, should we take Social Security right away or should we wait? Do we have the funds to be able to provide for that? And is it going to cause a dramatic increase in our withdrawal rate that's going to cause problems moving forward? So for them, it was less than 4% that they would be taking out from there. And a lot of you know the 4% rule that says if you take out 4%, you won't run out of money throughout your retirement if you do it the right way. And so that's the idea there. And so you'll see that over time, by the time they reach 66, we're starting to, take $60,000 out from their investments, but then Social Security kicks in, and between Social Security and our pension, we actually don't have an income need at all. And so in those years, we're actually being able to save some of that money if we want to. We may be encouraging them to spend a little extra money, but that's what that looks like. And so over time, you can see that, they're going to have to take some withdrawals from their investments later on in retirement to catch up with the inflation, but that's where they end up with that $4.3 million still left over because hey, they've done such a good job. They've got that guaranteed income from their pension. They've got the investments. They've got Social Security at a pretty generous amount there. And so that's what allows them to turn 1 million into 4 million by the time they pass away. So are these people really that poor is what I'm wanting to ask. I mean, living on $100,000 in retirement, that's pretty generous. I mean, most people are not doing that if they don't have a pension. And for them to still be left with 4 million and live on 100,000, I don't think these people are poor. I actually consider these people more the wealthiest people in the U.S. And I know that's hard for these people to think about because they never saw themselves as wealthy or they hate the word rich, definitely hate that because they just don't feel like that's who they are. They're not materialistic. They're just hardworking people who have done the right thing. And then they're like, oh, wait, this is where I've been from doing the right thing. Yeah, that's why most people struggle. It's because they don't be disciplined in how they save over time. And so that's what this looks like here. And so I want to show you another example of what this looks like. Now knowing that they're not poor, we've been able to show that to them. Now we have to think of, okay, well, then what is possible? What are we going to do? And we call this our purpose of money conversation. So if we are going to be left with $4 million by the time we reach, 88, for an example, well, what are we going to do with that wealth at that time? So if we don't want to gift it now, we don't want to give it now to charities, above and beyond what they're currently doing, then we do know this could be a reality to have that much left. And I do want to point out too, if they see a higher than a 6% return, these numbers change pretty dramatically. If we see a 5%, 4%, okay, that now they may not have as much of a surplus, but that's something we would run for them to see, hey, what is the minimum rate of return we can have, and still have maybe $1 million or $2 million left over as an example. But for this example, let's say we had $4 million. And now it comes to, what are we going to do with $4 million when we pass away? Well, we know we can't take it with you. And so what are we going to do? And so at this point, it's just going to go to whoever the beneficiaries are on the accounts. And if that's the case, hey, they're going to get a big lump sum. They're probably going to be, if you're passing away at 90, they're probably going to be about 60, 65 is probably going to be the case. And so if that's, do you really want to give that much money to someone who's 65 who doesn't really need it if they've really done all the work they've needed over all the years? And so that's what we see is the average age of inheritance is about 65. And so something we may consider is, what if we started to either spend, gift, or give more now, so that maybe we don't have $4 million at the end of time. Maybe we have a little less than that. And maybe it still is important for you to leave a windfall when you pass. But let's make sure we maybe can be more strategic with it today. And so that's where I want to show another example. And we ran the same type of example. And so the difference here with this example is we're showing them running out of money at the age of 90. Now, are they, is this something that we're just going to set this plan up and let it go? And then, if they live till 91, we have a terrible plan? Of course not. We're going to make adjustments over time. This is just a projection. It's not a plan necessarily. So it's just to give an idea, framework. A lot of these assumptions in this can change over time, but it gives people something to think about. And so with this conversation, we're only going to change one thing in the scenario that we showed you last time. The only thing we're going to change is the spending amount. And so now they're going to be able to spend $37,000 more each year. Now that's pretty significant. I mean, they're increasing their spending by 40%. That's pretty generous. And so for them, that meant they could do more vacations. That means they could gift more to their children. Maybe they gift their children $10,000. They had 2 children. Maybe they gift them $10,000 each every year to be able to max out their Roth IRA and put more towards their Roth 401k, or pay off debts, or save up for an emergency fund, or use it towards their children's and grandchildren's education. So, I mean, $10,000 can go a really long way. And, it may seem like a lot of money, but when you look at your overall picture, it may not be that big of a drag on your total plan. And so that's something we encourage clients, if it's important to them, is, hey, do your giving while you're living so you can see where it's going, right? And then if they're not being responsible, well, that makes it a little easier of who you're going to give more money to as time goes on, if that's something that you want to consider. And some people are saying, I'm going to give equal amounts to the kids no matter what. Okay, well, if that's the case, then no problem at all. But maybe we start thinking about doing that sooner. And so if you're thinking like, I don't want to run out of money at 90, right? I don't want it to be that close. Okay, great. Don't spend 137. Maybe instead spend 120,000. Maybe you just spend 20,000 extra, and then you'll still be left with quite a bit of money at the end of time. And maybe it's one year you spend the 37,000, and next year you don't. The year after you spend a little more. And if you're a little more spontaneous with your spending, then you could even argue that you could spend more than 137,000 in 1 year. You could maybe spend 200,000 if over the next couple of years you're not going to spend any or a lot less. And so it's important to understand that you don't have to have a fixed budget every single year. You can be spontaneous with this. You just have to make sure it fits within the plan and the numbers that you run there. And so overall, I hope this was a helpful framework to just go off of. I know a lot of people who watch this channel have a pension, have over $1 million saved. And so most people, when they come, we had so many people from the channel who schedule a time to work with us and then end up becoming clients of ours. And so many times they come to us with, wow, we knew we did well until we watched, we knew we did well, but we didn't know we did as well after watching some of your videos. And then once we were able to actually run their numbers specifically for them, they were just very surprised. They were just very overwhelmed with satisfaction, with happiness that, wow, this has really paid off. All these years of working hard has put us in a position to have what we call financial freedom, being able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. And so hopefully this is a real eye-opener for you and encourage you, maybe even to think about retiring early as well, or maybe, allowing you to spend more if you do want to continue to work and enjoy it. But this is something that we want everyone to think about. And again, if you like this type of planning that we're talking about, if you are this Midwestern millionaire that we've talked about, I'd love for you to get your hands on our book called The Midwestern Millionaire, so that you can learn more about the topics we discussed here today and making sure you're in a great position moving forward. We actually had someone read this book and they said the first 20 pages, they were just crying the entire time, because during the first 20 pages, I just talk about who this Midwestern millionaire is and how they've gotten them to their spot that they are. And I share examples of what this looks like. And the person reading it said, that's me, that's me, that's me. And oh my goodness, this is so true to who I am. And so that's our whole goal with this content, is to make it very particular to people that are in this crowd. And so many people watch our content and say, I feel like you were talking to me. I feel like we're having a conversation. I feel like I've talked to you 50 times when I talked to him for the first time. And so that's awesome that we can be able to connect and help those that are really in this niche of people that we love to serve. And that's who we serve here at Peak Retirement Planning. And so with that, that's all we have here on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. And we'll see you on the next one.